Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter. Today I'm with Chelsea Davis, CEO of Limitless Heights. And what that means in real life, she's a social worker, mental health therapist, and actually she has an amazing story about the way that she interacts, not just with any youth, but very specific youth as they're trying to just sort of work their way through this current insanity that we're all sort of enduring right now. And together we're part of the collaborative TIPS, which is Trauma-Informed Prevention Services of the Inland Empire. So allow me to welcome Chelsea Davis. Chelsea, what are you going to tell us today? Teach us something.
Thank you for having me, Glenn. I am excited to be a part of the collaboration. And I'm just going to be talking a little bit about what I do. Limitless Heights is a nonprofit organization that serves primarily women and children in the community. But we also serve other people in the community, men as well, open mics, and just different workshops that we provide to kind of give an outlet to a lot of the different stuff that goes on in the world. So I'm excited to be able to contribute to an outlet for some of the traumatic things that we experience.
You know, it's funny, you mentioned trauma and experience, and I think that there's something very different about the experience that our school age youth are having right now. I mean, they're going through school and there's, okay, day's over, you got to go, you're not coming back for a while. And there's been so much uncertainty. When you're talking to the children and how do they express to you that they're just not comfortable with the uncertainty? Because I'm assuming they don't have the vocabulary to do it, but how do they express that to you, that there's just discomfort in their reality?
Well, I have two things. So through my nonprofit, Limitless Heights, we were working with a charter school in Sacramento. That school is definitely, obviously, like many other schools, not functioning normally right now. So we're not able to go in and provide those teen empowerment groups. But my day job, my 9 to 5, I work as a mental health therapist at a group home. So the population I serve is young boys that are on probation, ages 14 to 18. And for them, it's been extremely challenging because they are limited to what they can and can't do. They're not in school, which is normally on campus, and they're going to their classes during the day, which gives them some structure. With that not happening, it's kind of just having a lot of free time on your hand and really having to feel like you're, kind of in this locked facility, or just being away from home, being away from family, having all these uncertainty if they're going to be okay, if you're going to see your mom or dad, if they're going to get sick. Just a lot of uncertainty, with courts being closed, not even knowing when they're going to get released to go home and reunite with their families. So it's been challenging just trying to maneuver all the emotions that have come up behind it. It's definitely been a challenge, but the kids, I think now we're getting to a place where it is becoming like a normal part of our society right now. So we're finding different ways to adapt, and they're opening up a lot more in individual and family sessions, for sure.
I think that's overall positive that they are opening up more in the individual and family sessions. I mean, I think once you remove them from that school environment, that type of structure that they're familiar with, whether they excel in it or not is a different argument, but at least there's familiarity. I think being able to reestablish familiarity it goes a long way with minimizing the impact of the trauma that they're literally experiencing. I've had some interesting conversation with some local educators, and one of the things that the pieces of feedback they give me is even when they're interacting with them remotely, there's this uncertainty of just where's the boundaries for me to start trying to reach. You have kids, and that's just sort of kids in general. They want to be mischievous. They want to see where the edges are. Some of them want to be firmly in the middle, but that's part of the learning, growing experience is where exactly are the boundaries. And now the boundaries are not just moving, but they're porous. I mean, if all of a sudden you just disengage, it becomes more of a challenge to get re-engaged because there's just so much other chatter that's in the environment. And I guess, is that similar to what you're seeing in the youth you're interacting with?
Yeah, I definitely see it's going to be a huge challenge when we do go back to the regular school structure. They've definitely gotten used to things being the way they are. We have a lot of packet work right now, so a lot of my kids aren't even like wanting to do school. Like the study time that we have, they're like, it's too hard to focus on doing a packet. And this work is harder than it would be if I was in the classroom actually getting the formal education instruction that I'm used to. So I think that is extremely challenging. As far as my kids at the charter school, I think it's challenging for them to not be able to be in the classroom setting, be able to be around for a lot of the kids, going to school is their escape. And that's just being completely honest. A lot of the problems stem from home. So sometimes going home is scarier for them than going to school. At least they get to be around their friends. The meal situation, making sure that they have at least lunch and breakfast at school. I just think that it's a lot more than just, the COVID or the injustices that are going on. The kids are having to deal with a lot more. They're having to be a family, be among one another. And for a lot of families, that's really difficult. It's bringing about a lot of problems.
I can definitely see how that creates challenges, bringing problems from home. Home problems are different.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that is peculiar to the Inland Empire is the prevalence of multi-generational households. And so now all of a sudden, not only are we all crammed in together in this home environment, which is a little bit, maybe not foreign, but you're not used to being there in the middle of the day.
Right.
But now there are additional family members because unemployment is high, or maybe hours were cut back, or maybe there's just a lot of uncertainty and consequently trauma with the threat of COVID-19 being so prevalent in our community. Obviously there are worse places in the nation, but on the other hand, we still constitute a major market. And when you think about just the size of the number, the quantity of people that are in our environment, even though the roads seem empty, there's still opportunities to interact, and there's still, quite frankly, a lot of fear that's going on. Some of it I find interesting, especially among young men. They're encountering that fear with bravado. Well, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of COVID. I coronavirus. That don't mean anything to me. I'm bigger than that.
Yeah.
And it's like not so much that you're bigger than it. It's the people you're around that are also impacted by those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you see? How do you see that? I mean, with what you see of being there on the front lines.
I definitely see a lot of people being really not taking it as serious as it should, as serious as it is. Even with everything else that's going on, there's like a spike in our numbers with how many people are experiencing cases of coronavirus. So it's just kind of, I don't know. It's definitely a huge concern for our community, because I don't see when the end of the rope is with coronavirus. Mm-hmm. I feel it's kind of like it provokes a lot of anxiety, and just knowing that they said that for people that are older, people that are babies, it's more of a high risk situation. So just knowing that our families are at risk, our loved ones, if I even feel like I have a scratchy throat or a headache, I'm not going to see my mom or dad or my nephew. And I just think that sucks, especially with everything that's going on right now. It's that should be your escape. You should be able to at least, commune with family. Especially we can't go to church. Like there's a lot of stuff that we can't do that are outlets. So I think it's important that people start to find different things that are outlets. There's a lot of groups, virtual groups that are getting together, people just talking about the things that are going on in the world, how they're feeling, being in quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that people need those outlets, even if it's just to be in nature and take a walk or to have some meditation time. I think it's important that we really take care of ourselves during this time.
I think that self-care is something that really gets overlooked in the totality of this season, of this environment, the new normal. Because you know that it's highly contagious, whether you're like, oh, it doesn't affect me. But I think in the back of even our young people, in the back of their head, they realize it is a possibility. So I think that dichotomy exists. I think the other thing that I find particularly interesting really comes down to how they choose to engage adults. I think that you see, or at least from what I understand, you see them not engaging. You're trying to avoid them, even if you're in the same space. So there's this desire to declare independence one way or the other. And again, that creates internal trauma in the household or in the community because you're doing something you normally wouldn't do while you're still trying to ignore that it's actually an issue. I mean, one thing I believe is part of our culture, particularly in the Inland Empire, is that you do have a sense of community. People do hug. People do invade their personal space. We're not used to being 6 feet apart no matter what. And that adjustment creates a little bit of uneasiness. But on the other hand, I don't have to do that. I'm tough. And I just think that is it's kind of a crazy dichotomy that's impacting both adults and young people.
No, I think people are craving it even more right now because, I mean, because we are told we can't have it, people want it more. Like, I think that, and then too, it's been it started in the middle of March, like, used to hugging and seeing, whenever you see your family, your friends hugging, and showing love in that way, this is not going to be an adjustment. People are just waiting for things to go back to normal. But for me, I'm like, I don't know what that's going to really look like. Like, I don't think that the mask or the gloves are going to go away so quickly. They're going to be around for a while. This is just how we do things. Like, I mean, even now, like, I have a friend that lives in Orange County, in Fullerton, and all of the shops, restaurants, bars are opening back up. And to me, I can walk past it and be like, you guys are crazy for sitting out here already. But, people are comfortable. There's people that are like going to restaurants and, trying to get back to living life normally. And the people that I've seen in these spaces are not wearing masks. So obviously comfortable enough to be like, okay, well, we're in a better place now, or we've, this is a different stage, so we're able to go out and do certain things. But to me, that it brings about a certain amount of fear because you don't know what I feel like that's a greater risk for things to increase, for the coronavirus to spread even more because people are not being as cautious as they were.
I see. No, I definitely think that is the elephant in the middle of the room, that they're not being cautious, even though they're aware of the risk. They're consciously denying it. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid, says the child who is shaking in his boots. So I think that is something that we're enduring. I don't know. I think it creates an interesting dynamic. I think one of the things that I'm really curious to see in the future is there a migration away from urban living? And even Riverside, I would consider that urban living. It gets we get overshadowed being wedged between Orange County and Los Angeles County. but Riverside County is still one of the 10 largest counties by population in the United States. So it's not a small market. It is not a spread out scenario of people kind of scattered everywhere. You put us anywhere else and we're a metropolis. And so, I think I think that might be an interesting byproduct of it, at least here in the Inland Empire, is that we actually start taking advantage of some of the spread and sprawl that is in fact available to us.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think that there's a lot of I think, I mean, even like there's conversation we've had at my job, it's just a lot of uncertainty, not knowing which news to believe, or if our news are really getting better, just people being confused about what news is being put out there. And I think that's where a lot of that, okay, do I need to be cautious still? Do I still need to wear a mask? Like I've heard people say, well, is this important? Do I still need to do this? They're allowing they're allowing these restaurants to open back up. Do I need to wear my mask still? Do I need to wear gloves still? And I've seen people walk into restaurants and coffee shops and things and not be cautious, but there's still signs on every door that says you need to wear a mask. So I just don't understand the logic behind people's actions, but I guess some people just want to play with fire and see if they get burned.
True enough. Well, kind of to our previous point, there is a new normal coming.
Yes.
It's not going to all change overnight back to what it used to be. There is a new normal. There'll be new habits. There'll be some new rules as we get smarter as it runs its course.
Right.
But let's assume you were queen and you were able to grant one wish to every 12-year-old that is under your care and covering, because you're queen.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them in preparation for the summer to, one, be more functional and minimize the trauma that can impact them if they continue to be reckless or if they choose to be reckless? What are you going to tell every 12-year-old? And they're going to listen. They're going to do it. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to get creative. Like, what can you do inside? What can you create? There's apps, there's YouTube videos. I know a lot of kids my nephew is like 3.5, and he will sit on YouTube and watch other kids play with their toys. And a lot of kids do that, and I don't understand it, but you can make money off of having a high number of views on YouTube. So I would promote that. Like, okay, what can you do? What are you bringing to the table? What would you like to get into? Like, I think that it's important for people to tap into their creative side, discover what their talents are, especially during the summer when they have nothing but free time. You might not be able to spend all your time outside playing in the dirt, but you can still do stuff, have fun, be creative, and use your time wisely inside and be safe.
Wow. I think that really wraps it up. I mean, really tap into the creative side of our youth. It's in them. It's inherent. Let them explore. Let them bask in it. Heck, they may even be able to figure out a solution for us to proceed more effectively as adults, just because they're so fearless and they're willing to experiment when you put them in that environment.
Absolutely.
Wow. So we're going to stop on that because I don't think we're not going to be able to one up that one. But Chelsea, I appreciate your insight, and again, what we're doing at TIPS, Trauma Informed Prevention Services, what we're doing is trying to make sure we're bringing not just intelligent conversation, not just great discourse, but real solutions into the community, either through the education channels or through social channels. But the trauma is real, and we want to make sure that our community, the Inland Empire as a whole, continues to thrive despite the constraints that we may be experiencing from this pandemic. With that being said, Chelsea, thank you for your insight. Thank you for your candor. And I'm Glenn W. Hunter, Chelsea Davis. Keep an eye out for us, like us, subscribe, because we will be bringing more innovative ideas and great content in terms of just developing coping skills and minimizing trauma within the communities that we occupy here in the Inland Empire.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Glenn. I appreciate getting on and speaking about topics that are important and I am passionate about. So thank you.
Believe me, the pleasure's mine. I think I got the better half. I learned a few things that I think will make me more effective as well. So thank you for sharing. Most importantly, for all of you, be safe. Thank you.